certainly the notion that we should pay the United Kingdom for oppressing us, for enslaving us, and for treating us as chattel. And that is the difference. Slavery existed before, but this was the first time that human beings were defined as chattel. And I've been very clear all along that the 1661 Slave Code of Barbados, which the French have just repealed less than 2 months ago, all distinguish themselves and all of the slave laws that followed the 1661 Slave Code of Barbados by the treatment of human beings as chattel. We're not asking for charity. We're asking to be able to ensure that justice can be done. In 1834, the British Parliament did not need to be persuaded of that fact with respect to the loss of property because we were chattel and the compensation of the slave owners of £20 million. This is a global movement now.
The longest serving female world leader. It's not as long as you think. This is Mottley, who's been the 8th Prime Minister of Barbados for exactly 7 years. She earned her law degree in the UK, but has been in politics for most of her career, having served in Parliament for over 3 decades as a member of the Barbados Labour Party. She became party leader in 2008, but was ousted in 2010, but returned in 2013. She proved to be extremely popular, and after lackluster results in the last 2 elections, Mottley's first election saw Labour win every single seat in Parliament, a feat she repeated in 2022. This made Barbados the only democracy in the world where one party held all the seats in the legislature. Although after both elections, someone switched parties just to be dramatic. Mottley is most notable for abolishing the country's monarchy and replacing Queen Elizabeth with a ceremonial president, the most recent country in the world to do so. She's also been one of the leading advocates for climate change action, and I mean like globally, giving passionate and animated speeches on the subject at international summits, for which she was listed as one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2022. On that note, she boldly announced that she would stop paying off the country's debt in order to spend more on climate-related issues. I mean, she's literally trying to restructure the global economic system, which you gotta respect for the leader of a country with less than 300,000 people.
Thank you. Do some leaders in this world believe that they can survive and thrive on their own? Have they not learned from the pandemic? Can there be peace and prosperity if 1/3 of the world literally prospers and the other 2/3 of the world live under siege and face calamitous threats to our well-being? And how many more pictures of people must we see on these screens without being able to move? Or are we so blinded and hardened that we can no longer appreciate the cries of humanity? Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic has taught us that national solutions to global problems do not work. We come to Glasgow with global ambition to save our people and to save our planet, but we now find 3 gaps. On mitigation, climate pledges or NDCs. Without more, we will leave the world on a pathway to 2.7 degrees, and with more, we are still likely to get to 2 degrees. These commitments, made by some, are based on technologies yet to be developed, and this is at best reckless and at worst dangerous. On finance, we are $20 billion short of the $100 billion, and this commitment, even then, might only be met in 2023. On adaptation finance remains only at 25%, not the 50-50 split that was promised nor needed given the warming that is already taking place on this earth. Climate finance to frontline small island developing states declined by 25% in 2019. Failure to provide the critical finance and that of loss and damage is measured, my friends, in lives and livelihoods in our communities. This is immoral and it is unjust. If Glasgow is to deliver on the promises of Paris, it must close these 3 gaps. So I ask to you, what must we say to our people living on the front line in the Caribbean, in Africa, in Latin America, in the Pacific, when both ambition and regrettably some of the needed faces at Glasgow are not present. What excuse should we give for the failure? In the words of that Caribbean icon Eddie Grant, will they mourn us on the front line? When will we, as world leaders across the world, address the pressing issues that are truly causing our people angst and worry, whether it is climate or whether it is vaccines? Simply put, when will leaders lead? Our people are watching, and our people are taking note. And are we really going to leave Scotland without the resolve and the ambition that is sorely needed to save lives and to save our planet? How many more voices and how many more pictures of people must we see on these screens without being able to move? Or are we so blinded and hardened that we can no longer appreciate the cries of humanity? I have been saying to Barbadians for many years that many hands make light work. Today, we need the correct mix of voices, ambition, and action. Do some leaders in this world believe that they can survive and thrive on their own? Have they not learned from the pandemic? Can there be peace and prosperity if 1/3 of the world literally prospers and the other 2/3 of the world live under siege and face calamitous threats to our well-being? What the world needs now, my friends, is that which is within the ambit of less than 200 persons who are willing and prepared to lead. Leaders must not fail those who elect them to lead. And I say to you, there is a sword that can cut down this Gordian knot, and it has been wielded before. The central banks of the wealthiest countries engaged in $25 trillion of quantitative easing in the last 13 years. 25 trillion. Of that, 9 trillion was in the last 18 months to fight the pandemic. Had we used that 25 trillion to purchase bonds, to finance the energy transition, or the transition of how we eat, or how we move ourselves in transport, we would now today be reaching that 1.5 degrees limit that is so vital to us. I say to you today in Glasgow that an annual increase in the SDRs of $500 billion a year for 20 years, put in a trust to finance the transition, is the real gap, Secretary General, that we need to close, not the 50 billion being proposed for adaptation. And if 500 billion sounds big to you, guess what? It is just 2% of the 25 trillion. This is the sword we need to wield. Our excitement 1 hour into this event is far less than it was 6 months ago leading up to this event. Can we, with those voices and these speeches from Sir David and others, find it within ourselves to get the resolve to bring Glasgow back on track? Or do we leave today believing that it was a failure before it starts? Our world, my friends, stands at a fork in the road. One no less significant than when the United Nations was formed in 1945. But then, the majority of our countries here did not exist. We exist now. The difference is we want to exist 100 years from now. And if our existence is to mean anything, then we must act in the interests of all of our people who are dependent on us. And if we don't, we will allow the path of greed and selfishness to sow the seeds of our common destruction. The leaders of today, not 2030, not 2050, must make this choice. It is in our hands, and our people and our planet need it more than ever. We can work with who is ready to go, because the train is ready to leave. And those who are not yet ready, we need to continue to ring circle and to remind them that their people, not our people, but their citizens, need them to get on board as soon as possible. Code red to the G7 countries. Code red to the G20. Earth to COP, that's what it said. Earth to COP. For those who have eyes to see, for those who have ears to...
Good evening, welcome to Afriba. The debate over slavery reparation has just reached another boiling point, and this time, Barbados Prime Minister, in person of Mottley, is not holding back. In a powerful response that is making headlines around the world, Mottley challenged comments from the UK lawmakers who question or dismiss calls for reparation linked to the translative slave trade. Our message was clear. This is not simply about money. It is about historical accountability, justice, and acknowledging the lasting economic and social consequences of centuries of enslavement. In her speech, Mottley slammed the UK lawmaker for such words. For generations, Caribbean and African have argued that the wealth accumulated by European colonial power came at the enormous human cost. They say the legacy of slavery continues to shape inequality, development, and opportunity today. Mottley consistently urged former colonial power to engage in a meaningful dialogue rather than dismiss the issue outright. And here is the thing. This is not the first time Mottley is going to condemn the Slavery Act of the European Empire. Supporters of opposition believe reparations are about confronting history honestly and creating a foundation for stronger future relationships. Others argue that today's government should not be held financially responsible for action committed centuries ago. But regardless of where people stand, one thing is undeniable. The conversation is no longer fading into the background. Could this be the beginning of the conversation? Or could this be the time African and Caribbean are fighting for their rights? As more African and Caribbean leaders unite on this issue, pressure is growing on former colonial power to explain how they intend to address one of history's most painful chapters. The question now is no longer whether this debate exists, but how long it can continue to be ignored. I would like to hear your perspective, and please do comment respectfully. Thank you, and see you in the next one.